and welcome back to the London Architect podcast. My name is Lily Patience and I'm your host. The London Architect is a podcast that aims to shine a light on some of the talent shaping the city skyline through conversations with professionals like my guest today, Mr. Khalid Abdelrahman. Thanks for joining us today, Khal.
Oh, pleasure.
Now, this is a special episode because Khal has been a big supporter of the podcast since its early days, and because this is in fact our 10th episode.
So a big fan of
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, guys. So today we have Khal with us. Khal works for WSP, who are a global engineering firm, and they've worked on some impressive projects. But first of all, Khal, do you want to just give us a brief overview of your career journey so far? Because you've had like various different titles in there from, I think, you did a degree in civil engineering, right?
I did, yes. Yeah.
And then you've been project manager.
Yeah.
You've had some engineering roles. You've done a lot. Like, you've got a lot of experience.
Yeah.
But yeah, so do you want to just give us a brief run through of
sure.
what it's been so far?
No problem.
Yeah.
So I suppose my introduction and to the industry and where I am today is I suppose it's quite a conventional route. I've had some adventures on the way. So I suppose it started off doing a degree in civil engineering, working for, back then, Taylor Woodrow as a contractor on their graduate scheme, doing their graduate training scheme, becoming chartered civil engineering with them. And it was a crossroads at that point in terms of, do I just plough on with a career with Taylor Woodrow, or do I do something different? So I took the decision to venture further afield.
And you worked on some pretty impressive stuff with them, like Crossrail, right?
Yeah, so that was in the early days of Crossrail before we broke ground. So we were involved in a lot of the supporting Crossrail in getting their bill through Parliament. So it was a lot of proof of concepts and making sure that the scheme was feasible from an engineering perspective. Yeah. So it was quite good in the early career, kind of managing what was called the enabling work. So what the enabling works is the work that enables the main construction to happen.
Right.
So it's moving things like the utilities, diverting roads, anything that is in the path of the main infrastructure works.
Yeah.
So Taylor Woodrow back then were involved with the kind of the execution of the planning element of things, right, and engaging with the utility companies and managing the delivery.
Yeah. I mean, that's really like the nitty-gritty of infrastructure development.
Absolutely.
Something you don't really consider.
Yeah. You get your hands dirty and kind of there's a lot of discussions with stakeholders, and that's where kind of, it's an important part of our job in the built environment. Must
have been really beneficial to get an overview of that, when you were just sort of entering the industry, to know how all of that works, from the start of your career.
Well, it's quite kind of because I came on the Elizabeth line just now.
Yeah.
And you see that from being on paper to probably one of the most sophisticated,
definitely,
piece of infrastructure in the world. Yeah. People come and look at London and look at their London, the underground network, and see what we've done, and it is a feat of civil engineering and construction.
It's something to really be proud of.
Yeah, no, it's funny. I kind of I read an article the other day, and the guy I actually kind of worked with in my early days with Crossrail, and Crossrail, or the Elizabeth line as it's known now, the inception of that job was back in the 90s, early 90s, and that is the only job he's ever worked on. This chap, and he's probably coming close to retirement now. So jobs like these can can be your life.
Yeah.
They are. It's
like your child.
It is a generation worth of work.
Yeah.
I wonder what's going to happen with that big cutting tool that they used to bore out.
Oh, the TBM, the tunnel boring machine. Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe we can use it for like some sort of futuristic, like in case of nuclear.
Probably in a museum somewhere now. Yeah, exactly.
And then I saw that you were secondment to Arup. Does that mean that you were transferred to Arup for a little bit to like get some experience, then come back to Taylor Woodrow?
So that is there's kind of basically that's before Crossrail.
Okay.
So you could put it in two camps. Construction is, you could split it in two parts: the construction arm and the design arm. And it's generally a choice when you enter the industry where you want to go. But to become, as part of your professional qualification and being part of the Institution of Civil Engineers, you've got to demonstrate a broad scope of experience and knowledge. And as part of that training scheme, you're expected to have experience on both sides. So a lot of these consultants, design consultants and contractors have arrangements whereby they swap graduates.
Right.
So someone from the design consultancy arm can sit in the construction part of organisation and vice versa to gain that type of experience. And, a person from a construction side can understand how to design a beam, design a portal frame, design a slab, and then vice versa from the person come out of the consultancy arm. So I work for, it was on my early part of my career. I worked on King's Cross Underground, the redevelopment.
Yeah, I saw. Yeah.
And as part of that, during that project, I moved to Arup, just did a secondment with Arup. Arup, if you know them or not, so Arup are quite a big consultants. They've done some very significant engineering work.
They've done did they do the Sydney Opera House?
I don't know, but I think a significant structure they've done is the Millennium Bridge. So they were part of that. They've done, I believe, Gherkin, but they do a lot of very complicated engineering.
Yeah, they did design the Sydney Opera House in the 1950s. So Ove Arup.
Used to be Ove Arup, but over the years they've rebranded.
But they're like one of the top, if not the top, engineering.
They're very
country,
kind of
right?
They're a very kind of well respected company. So they're very good.
Very.
They do a lot of work with Foster's.
Yeah,
they are Foster's choice of engineers.
Right.
So they're very, very, very good.
So after leaving Taylor Woodrow, you went to Mott MacDonald. Is that right?
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
How was that?
That was good. So that was a different kind of commission. So back in 2007, I got a job with another big consultant called Mott MacDonald, working out in the Middle East. In Dubai. Great bit of experience, different culture. I landed in the desert back in April 2007 on a golf course development. The original master plan was 4 championship golf courses surrounded by 1,000 villas, high-end villas within this quite exclusive development. That was quite a baptism of fire.
That was a big move. That was the whole family, wasn't it? Right?
Well, that was me solo.
Oh, that was your solo.
That was me solo at the time. So that was pre-kids.
Wow.
And pre-wife.
What a pivotal move in your career and life.
Absolutely. That was a great period in my life.
You had a big smile.
Yeah, no, it was just a brilliant time. And working out in the Middle East, it's a completely different culture. It's a different approach, and to getting things done compared to here.
Yeah.
And it was good. So that was the start of my 10.5 year stint in the Middle East.
Was it nerve-wracking?
It's kind of you're landing solo in somewhere you do not know, have no friends or anything. So it was essentially starting from scratch.
But you've got a purpose.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it didn't take long to get my teeth into the project. And get started. So that was the start of many jobs, from golf courses to kind of high-rise, kind of mixed-use blocks, railway infrastructure projects. Just a variety of jobs, and not just in Dubai, in Abu Dhabi, in Qatar, and in across the Middle East, really. So it was a good stint.
It's very cool.
Yeah,
swing these days.
It's still bad. It's still bad, yeah. So but that course ended up, and it still is, the final leg of the PGA Tour, which is the race to Dubai. Ooh. So that's hosted that championship now for over 10 years. So it's
cool for you.
It's a cool job.
Yeah, and
really good job.
I saw that you worked on like 8 metro stations or something, including the Burj and the Mall of Emirates.
That was a great job. So we were commissioned. So I tendered this job. So I'm quite proud of the fact I actually won the project. It was essentially the redevelopment of 8 metro station on the existing metro line across Dubai, with a view to increase the patronage on each of the stations.
Yeah.
So that was great and challenging projects. And this is where kind of how things work from here and in the Middle East are different and very challenging. I think when clients want to change things, you've got to react to it. You've got to react quick. And with a company, big corporate companies, managing change, expectations with every, wherever you are, can be quite challenging. But in the Middle East, you have to react quickly, and that can be a balance to manage your internal stakeholders, which is the company, and managing your internal governance system and delivering for the client.
I think there's no money issues. It's like, we want to change it. The money's there. Do it quickly. Or is that?
Well, yeah. I think what you've got to do is manage change and manage the contractual change with the money. So if something changes, it's essentially you're asking us to do something different to our scope, and we want an instruction to do that. So it's and that's how people make money, really, when you manage change, and it's just reacting to that change and having things in place to make sure that contractually you are covered. So it's the balance of making sure you are satisfying your internal stakeholder, i.e. your company, to make sure you are not exposed commercially. And on the flip side, making sure you maintain that relationship with the client and that trust. And sometimes those days don't align. So you've just got to manage your external facing client and your internal.
And you must have to have good open communication.
You got it. Negotiation and communication.
How was your work-life balance when you were managing those projects?
It's challenging. We work in an industry which is very challenging, and margins can be quite small. So you've got to manage that. So it's challenging, but I suppose it's a balance of challenge and reward, isn't it?
Yeah.
So the reward in terms of seeing what you've done. So it's definitely the cultural changes are different, and also one of the things that you notice working in the Middle East and how they do their developments, they're very much revenue driven. So the asset that you develop, any opportunity to get any revenue, such as retail, looking at how they can maximize on getting money.
Like that now? They're changed.
No. Which I think is the right thing. Looking at how you can, I think retail is the biggest one in the Middle East. Shopping is off the scale over there. So it's all about, whether they sell the rights to the station, naming rights, and they have a station called whatever.
I went to Dubai with my uni.
Yeah.
I mean, in some of the malls there, they've got like a huge aquarium, don't they?
Yeah.
And just some really wacky stuff. Like you can literally walk around the mall all day. I remember one we went to that was a bit further out of the town. It was a little bit sickening how huge it was. Like I didn't know how to get out. You don't know how to like orient yourself, And they had like mini trains inside the malls, and like it's just. I suppose maybe a little bit of it is that sometimes the temperature outside, it's pretty difficult to enjoy a nice day out because the temperature is so high. So therefore, it's convenient to have these environments that are a lot more friendly to families and stuff.
Well, they are branding and marketing, in my view, geniuses out there.
Yeah.
Everything is geared around the consumer and the experience, and they have a different way of looking at things.
Yeah.
And they are. It is brand Dubai, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's, everything they do is geared around kind of monetizing their asset, and and that asset being Dubai.
Yeah.
So
and it has no shame in being that either. It's like, this is me, That's why I think some people don't really like Dubai, but then you get the people that love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So actually, on that note, speaking about a kind of company and a country that's very revenue driven, that must be quite a stark comparison to WSP, who say that their values are people-centered design and sustainability and infrastructure that supports the local community and stuff.
I think it's in terms of what you do, that's always the core of what you do anyway, regardless. So, the things that we were doing in the Middle East in terms of the sustainability kind of driver, I think it's inherent with big companies nowadays, and looking at how they can do things more efficiently, more sustainable, looking at decarbonizing existing assets and looking at basically making that asset as carbon neutral as they can. I think that is nowadays core to what you do, and you've got to exploit that and look at every opportunity to do that with what you're doing.
Yeah.
So I think the values of my current employer, my previous employer, I think that was always core, and it's just moving with the technology that's out there, and embracing that with what you do.
Yeah. How have you seen the technology evolve?
Well, I think with everything, it comes down to attitudes and government policy. It's driving innovation. That is the key thing here, and that drives the industry to innovate. Government policy, whether trends, etc. So I think, and to stay relevant in this world, you've got to be the leader in that space. So I think it's whatever industry, whether it be construction, whether it be advertising, you've got to be up with the latest innovation in terms of what you're doing, incorporate into your design, whether it's
kind of like a race for innovation.
That you've got to kind of like be part of that journey,
Yeah. So I thought I'd ask, do you have any advice reflecting on your whole career journey and how you've moved from each job to the next?
My thing is you've got to always learn, and you've got to be a sponge, whether you're kind of a graduate at 21 years old or whether you are somebody who's got a wealth of experience at 55 years old. You've got to always learn, especially the pace that the world is advancing technologically and in attitudes. So, if you don't, you're not relevant in a way. So you've got to, whether it be from a sustainability side of thing, AI, AI is the big one at the moment with how do you adopt AI in your day-to-day working practices?
I feel like lifelong learning it's meant to be one of the keys to a successful life, isn't it?
Absolutely. You have to live, and it is as simple as that. If you do not embrace change,
Skynet's coming.
Yeah, it's crazy. You've got to embrace it, because this day and age, exactly, you will be left behind.
Well, I've noticed that, and I know that WSP do these kind of developments, but the rise in these multi-use spaces that are combining leisure, and they're kind of giving you everything, so it's right at your fingertips, and they're creating these spaces that feel more like a home environment. I mean, a bit like where we are right now recording this. So it's increasing because of the fact that AI and technology has got us all behind screens, especially post-pandemic world. Everyone's sort of working from home and stuff. So there's a rise in these office spaces that are where you get a sort of ecosystem of tenants, and that's bringing people back together. And I feel like that's really interesting.
I think COVID there's been a challenge. I don't think with every organisation in bringing people into the office.
Yeah.
My personal opinion is that you have to have a balance of, you can't just work at home. You have to have a balance of that interaction and working in the office, because for me, that's where you get the most value and the best input when you dialogue with people. So I think it's a balance, and having that space, that environment to be able to have that good dialogue, have a relaxed space, have the amenities is very important.
Yeah.
I think that the days of those cellular offices has kind of gone, and having an open light space.
If you've got an issue with someone or whatever, it's always better face to face. So the office is a great place to get.
Absolutely. We always say you can't beat that chat over the coffee machine.
Also,
you can't do that.
Also, happy employees mean better work, and creating a space that people don't mind staying and working a bit later because it's lovely, and that that it's a nice environment to be in. That's sort of the best way forward.
Absolutely. It's the whole kind of Google movement. Google very much pro giving their employees that environment. Exactly. It's hitting that balance, but I think it's important.
Definitely. So, Cal, have you been at WSP for about 6 years now?
So when I came back from the Middle East, I joined a company called Capita, who were mainly an outsourcing company, but they had a real estate and infrastructure arm, which I joined. Yeah, and I think I worked there for 4 years, and then we got acquired by WSP, which was, I think, a bit of a blessing in disguise, because Capita, we were lost in the Capita organisation. Yeah, Capita generally don't do what we do. Yeah. So we then joined the WSP family, and over a period of about a year, we started the integration with them, and it's been good. It's been good. I think it's obviously WSP, a well-renowned company involved in some some extremely high profile jobs, every sector.
Yeah.
You will find an expert in
You know,
whatever you want.
What's quite interesting is a lady who we had on the podcast, I think last year, must have been last year, Rachel from With an A Projects. She is an access and inclusive design consultant, and she's worked with WSP on like the Strand.
Okay. Well, that's a big part of nowadays. Designing. It's not just designing sustainably. It's designing with inclusion in mind. And having an understanding of what that means.
I guess it's like thinking about the philosophy of a space and how it's going to be used, because especially these places that are like in central London, people are going to be, the footfall will be so high, like that's going to have a real impact on lives, and it'll be there for at least 100 years. So
it's a very it's a very sensitive part of design.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting. It throws up some questions. It throws up some challenges. We're doing a refurbishment job at the moment for National Grid. And we've got those challenges where we've got it's generally a male-dominated sector where people are working in substations, and we're doing refurb of their office space and redesigning gender-neutral toilets, changing rooms.
Yeah,
and you get pushback, but it's just talking people through it and making people understand.
Do you spend a lot of time on site?
I've actually just come from site today.
Oh,
I'm genuinely. It is a high vis, yeah. But I know. I came today, but I find myself at the moment at this point in my life mainly behind the desk, unfortunately. But I do enjoy. I don't mind it. I do mind it. But yeah, it's. I do. I enjoy going on site, and seeing what the output of what you've done is.
Yeah.
It's I think we can never lose sight of that.
Yeah. Do WSP do any sort of social housing developments?
We do everything, really.
Everything.
I think we do everything. One of my projects is a council-led kind of social housing of 37 flats.
Right.
So you do that for the local council.
No, I was thinking earlier about obviously the government's new housing agenda, where Keir Starmer said that we're like scrapping the paper planning permission stage of getting planning permission, and he wants to push for like way more social housing.
Basically get the system moving a bit more to build more.
I think they've relaxed the planning laws, haven't they? And I think that came in when Boris kind of started relaxing the planning laws. I think probably Keir's just progressing that.
Do you think that big companies like WSP and Arup and the likes of all that will step into action on this kind of thing, or is that often divvied out?
I think with every policy change, whether it be in housing, whether it be announcements on big infrastructure jobs, which is happening at the moment. It makes a change. It makes a change. We've got to react to it. The whole industry has got to react to it.
For the big house builders, right?
Yeah. There is, but there's a lot of infrastructure that goes in with that and is part of that. So it'll involve some big engineering consultancies to do that and everything. So any kind of policy change, government-led policy change, has an impact, whether it be banning of diesel cars on the roads. Down the line, there will be a big impact in the country's infrastructure. And decarbonising everything in EV charging points across the country. So there's a knock-on effect with everything that is announced.
It's all interconnected.
It is. And there's opportunities with that.
Yeah. So Cal, I wanted to ask, do you work with sort of younger people? Do you ever work with grads?
If you don't embrace the talent that's coming through, you're going to be in all sorts of trouble.
Yeah.
So, but you'll find it with main big companies, the whole, what's it called? The milk rounds in the universities, where they look at picking graduates and sponsoring them through their last year at university or at the beginning.
Yeah.
Or, the career fairs, you've got to handpick all these students and the best talent to get them in your organisation, to make sure that there is kind of building the legacy of the company and making sure you get the brightest people to join. So and it's very important.
Do you do any like mentorship though? Because I saw that WSP have like a professional growth network where for grads they buddy them up with like a mentor, and then they're meant to kind of from that experience.
So as part of my professional body, so I'm a chartered civil engineer.
Yeah.
The Institution of Civil Engineers, there is a kind of a mentoring scheme whereby people who've gone through it and have done the training to mentor people, kind of bring people up and prepare them for their professional exams.
Yeah.
And making sure that they've got the required skills through their career to take them to that point where they will pass their professional. So I'm involved in that, and also just mentoring my team, and making sure that, obviously they've got to deliver the jobs, but making sure they know how to deliver and the skill sets they need.
Yeah.
Team.
Yeah.
What's the average age? Do you have like young people coming through?
So I've got from early 20 to kind of people in their mid 30s, early 40s. So I've got a wide range.
Yeah.
So, and I think this is where the inclusion comes in, isn't it? In people's careers, making sure you are inclusive for somebody who's kind of joining your team if they're 60 years old or whether they're 18 years old.
Yeah. It must be really valuable to have people from all different ages, though, because everyone's going to have a different perspective and idea of what the future of the industry is going to look like.
That's very important, absolutely. And it's also, it's not just construction professionals that you'll find a bit of these big consultancies employ. They're all different professionals or different people from different industries. Whether it's from health to environmental, whether, a construction site. It's important to get that broad scope and tapping into different kind of expertise.
Yeah. Yeah, because then you can get your, RICS accreditation or something whilst you're working there.
Well, exactly. So we kind of, a lot of our team, I work with a lot of kind of surveyors, structural, quantity surveyors, engineers, it's a whole mixed bag of different professions, which is important.
Definitely. So, Cal, I've got 2 more questions that are a bit more light-hearted. Not that what we were talking about was overly deep, but first one is, I don't know if you had a chance to look at this one, but your favourite fictional piece of architecture. Doesn't even have to be
Should I tell you?
Doesn't have to be a building.
Go on then.
Mine's the Death Star.
Oh, okay.
The Death Star.
Yeah.
Big Star Wars fan.
Right. That's a good one. I've always liked 70s type New York based films.
Yeah.
And I just love that vibe in the streets where you've got the kind of the guys with the afros and you've got your Latinos here. And I just love that kind of mix of people.
Yeah.
And that kind of gritty feel. And I've just really like that.
Is that like Taxi Driver?
Yeah, like Taxi Drivers type scene.
Yeah.
And Carlito's Way.
What sort of old diner vibe?
Yes, I love that. Okay, here we go. Back to the Future then. That was a good one.
The diner.
The diner. And that whole feel.
Yeah.
It's very nostalgic.
And nostalgia. Exactly.
Okay, that's a good answer.
Yeah.
And my second fun question is your favourite real building or piece of architecture?
That's a good one.
This is the last question, yeah.
And after this, we go to the pub.
That sounds good. That sounds good. So, there's just such a great list. Now, yeah, I think I'm a bit spoilt with this because kind of living through a big period of my professional career in probably a part of the world which was all about architecture and streetscape and urban landscaping.
Yeah.
There's a lot to choose from in terms of buildings, whether it be Burj Khalifa, Emirates Towers, you've got the Shard, you've got so many. Mm-hmm. But I think for me, and I've yet to go there, is the Miloud Viaduct, which is the Norman Foster Bridge. Have a look at that. It's something like the biggest. It's in France. So have a look at it. And it's probably one of the most impressive bridges.
It's absolutely beautiful. Like it looks like a piece of art.
It's absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
I just think it's a ridiculous piece of art and engineering. It's engineering.
That is vast.
And strong.
It's just obscene. It's absolutely obscene. And I just think it's a very impressive bit of mixture of architecture.
Yeah, that is crazy. And it's the way it sort of reflects the rolling hills.
Yeah.
They've created that sort of silhouette.
It's good. It's great, isn't it? So yeah, so that's I think in terms of a structure and just a bit of art.
I think bridges.
Look at the close up.
It's brilliant.
Bridges are more impressive than buildings, in my personal opinion.
No, absolutely.
Very cool. Good answer, Cal.
Thank you.
Spoken like a true civil engineer. Thank you very much for coming on the podcast again, Cal.
Pleasure.
It's been a brilliant 10th episode. And I'd like to say thank you to all of our audience for tuning in. I hope you find this episode really useful. Cal's given us lots of tips on sort of, his experience working in different parts of the industry and what the future of the industry looks like and sustainability and AI. Yeah, we've covered a lot. So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Cal.
Thank you.
Thank you, audience member. And we'll see you all next time on The London Architect. Bye-bye.